Hey everybody. So Dave here from Franlong. Wanted to give you kind of a bit of a background of where we came from and where we are going. So back in 2020, Catherine and I launched Fantasy Fitnessing. The goal was to create fantasy games for the space of CrossFit. So flashback then, that was the middle of sanctionals. There was CrossFit going to be on every weekend. What a better weekend way to spend your weekends than sitting back and watching some elite CrossFit each weekend. So I thought it'd be a good idea as we dove into the sport to bring fantasy sports to it on a weekly basis. So got that kicked off in 2020. And something that we found really early on as part of that process was that there was no real way to find details on the athletes. You had the game site, which was great for the Open and the CrossFit Games and regionals and everything that is within the CrossFit Games season, but everything else was off on its own. So you went to Wodapalooza, you saw the Wodapalooza leaderboard, you wanted to learn more about Patrick Vellner. Well, there wasn't anything in the Wodapalooza leaderboard. You need to dive into Instagram to see where else he's been, find the Rogue leaderboard, see what was there, and everything was scattered across the internet. So, kind of out of our own need and own want as CrossFit fans and sports fans, started to bring everything together in a centralized location. What was at that point fantasyfitnessing.com. So, started building out kind of that central database of elite CrossFit information. And over the past 3 years, it's grown. We have over 160 elite CrossFit competitions, event results from or competition results from over 6,000 elite CrossFit athletes. So everything from the games, regionals, sanctionals, semifinals, quarterfinals, the Open, bringing all those together in one spot. Also have event details, so it's not just who won the competition, but who won Triple Three back in 2018, or who won the sandbag carry at the CrossFit Games in 2022. So again, all that's there, one spot. You can see how an athlete did in a competition as we go through. And so as we've been putting this all together, while there's a lot of you out there that love the fantasy games and like playing fantasy games as you watch CrossFit, there's just as many as more people who really like digging into the stats and seeing that history for their favorite athletes. So earlier this year, kind of spun out the Franlung Analytics, franlung.com as its own thing, really just trying to bring as much kind of data and sport history to the sport as possible, which really kind of brings us where we are now. Throughout this, our goal has always been trying to bring up all the athletes in the sport. So with the fantasy games that you play, you can't just pick the top three athletes. You got to pick. You might pick like a Brooke Wells and a Patrick Vellner, but you also might pick a couple of those people who are up and coming and maybe in the first heat of the competition. And just as you watch, you're cheering them on, and it's always good to learn a bit more about them. So with the kind of goal of bringing up the entire sport, the more people who watch, the more you know, the more sponsors and money will flow into the sport, which will then help the athletes around and provide a better training opportunities, give them more opportunities to train. As we know with CrossFit, if you want to be at the top of the game, it requires a full-time training schedule, but not necessarily a full-time income alongside of that. So hopefully we can play our part in bringing more sponsors and attention into the sport. And one of the ways that we feel now is a way that we can help is just giving creators the tools that they need to create more content. So there's a lot of great long form interviews in the CrossFit space now where the different groups will come on and interview athletes and give a great story of who the athlete is and the personalities involved and where they came from and their background. But trying to kind of shift the focus now into providing more tools for analysts and competition previews that aren't necessarily easy to acquire. So we've created a set of 3 sets of creator tools to really help people out there focus on those creator competitions. So some of the things that we are bringing out right now within our creator packages. So we have competition previews. So this right now for semifinals lists all the athletes, individual athletes in the competition, some of their demographic info, their Instagram age, have their CrossFit Open for this year, individual quarterfinals, worldwide quarterfinals, worldwide ranking. So all that's listed in a single spot. And then for each athlete, where applicable, their last 3 competition results out of it. So if you're James Sprague and you did Zelos Games in Can West, that's there. If you're Patrick Vellner, you got your Wodapalooza and your Rogue. So really kind of to bring as much attention into all the athletes as possible. So it really gives people an opportunity to compare their past results and kind of do that analysis without having to do the hours of research within that. We have kind of a recalculated open and quarterfinals ranking for all the competition fields. So if we look at the Torium Pro with the 30 athletes that are in that, who ranked the highest in each of the different events in the 2023 Open and who ranked the highest in all the events in quarterfinals. So if it was just those 30 athletes, what would they have finished and how would they ranked against each other. So now that we're seeing semifinal events come out, you can kind of compare them to something that everybody else has done in the past and see how Jake Crouch versus Jake Douglas versus Sneaky Pete Ellis and how they all work together as they hit the competition floor in a few weeks. And then some of our more advanced tools. So we got over 300 athletes competing at semifinals, what their training camps is. With training camps being such a big deal, all that detail is available out there. And then also some post-competition reports as well. So a recalculated leaderboard to see where people stood after every event. So you can make those fancy graphs that kind of see people floating throughout the weekend. You can do analysis to see who really, drove up to the leaderboard on Sunday versus Saturday and see how things go. So really just creating these types of tools to enable creators to have these interesting conversations related to competition, either bringing new creators into the space who really want to focus on those analytics, or having those existing creators who have focused on the interviews, but doing this type of research for a competition is just really laborious. So giving them the opportunity to do it without doing the hours of research. So we're going to be building these more tools as time progresses. Also going to be some ad hoc reporting tools that are available now. So they just dropped that Linda is going to be a semifinal event. So again, leveraging the power of a singular database, we're able to see that 97 of the athletes competing at semifinals did Linda back in 2018 regionals. So having a report available to see how everybody did by semifinal. And really just kind of creating those types of tools to help people create an analysis of the upcoming competition. So going to be bringing more tools to those different packages here in the next few weeks as we progress through semifinals and into the CrossFit Games. And then we'll be providing it throughout the entire calendar year. So right now, a lot of the focus is semifinals and getting to the games, but these types of reports and tools will be available for the Madrid Championship, Rogue Invitational, Down Under, Dubai, Wodapalooza, and then some of the other smaller regional events. We can think of the French Throwdown, German Throwdown, Marbella, the Fittest Experience. Really just trying to create as much conversation about these competitions as we can, leveraging kind of that central resource that we have spent so much time building over the past 3 years. So if you do have any more information, certainly reach out. We're really excited to be launching this now and really just kind of, again, getting more voices in the sport, talking about all these outstanding athletes and these fun competitions that we have. So with that, take care. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're happy to have those conversations.